there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. Today I'm doing number 24 in my ongoing series of question and answer videos where I answer questions that people posed to me in the comments section of my video earlier this week, Monday to be exact. And what you see me doing here is I'm sort of working on an idea for a future video, practicing my technique, figuring out how I'm going to do it. But what I want to do is see if I can learn to illustrate drops of water on a leaf, like dewdrops. And so yeah, you're going to watch me sort of practicing my technique on this as I answer some of these questions. So let's go ahead and start with question number 1. There's going to be 10 of the so-called serious questions, and then 10 of the lightning round questions, which tend to be a little more random, a little more silly sometimes. So let's go with question number 1 here from Korea. Hope I'm saying that right. How do you deal with perfectionism? Sometimes I find it hard to start drawing because I know it won't end up as perfect as I want it to, and it frustrates me. Yes, this is a great topic, and it's one that I actually addressed in Mastering Manga 2. At the very end of the book, I had the character of me. Well, hang on, I'll go grab it and show you what I'm talking about. So yes, here's Mastering Manga 2, and at the very end of the book, my sort of concluding page, I have this character meant to look like me, quite a bit younger looking than I really am, truth be told, but I have markcrilley saying, I'll leave you with this one thought. Perfectionism, in many ways, can become the enemy of an emerging artist. And I really do believe that sometimes getting so focused on perfectionism, pursuing perfection, can really hamper your success as an artist. I think maybe it's best in a lot of cases to just let go of this idea of trying to be perfect. First of all, how do you even define what perfect is? So many people have different ideas of what art ought to look like. And the truth is, you know, a perfection of sorts is achieved over time, over a period of years, as you refine your work. So trying to, you know, hold yourself to this impossibly high standard of perfection in your work on a daily basis is, I think it's self-defeating, frankly, and I learned long ago, for my purposes anyway, to not really be shooting for perfectionism, just, you know, doing my best. Of course, you don't want to become lazy, you don't want to become complacent. That is also the enemy of the artist, this idea of, well, it's good enough, you know. I don't even need to try, you know, of course you don't want to be like that. But I think most people understand that that's a bad way to go about things. I think what is lesser thought of is this idea that going too far in the opposite direction can really kind of wreck you as an artist, as you are constantly holding yourself to too high of a standard. So, you know, in terms of advice, I don't know, it's sort of like a mental game almost. Can you get yourself to just say, all right, forget about perfection. Let's just jump into this and, you know, do the best that I can for now. I don't know of any magical method of breaking free from a sort of obsession with being perfect, but I think if you maybe just hearing from someone like me who does this professionally, that it's not necessary, that you don't need to keep thinking of perfection all the time. Maybe that's enough, hopefully, to help some of you let go of that, if indeed it's getting in your way. Let's move on to the next question, number 2, from Facial Wreck. Now that Brody's Ghost is complete, can we expect a new story project from you anytime soon? Thanks for that question. Yes, indeed. I am working right now, in fact, on a graphic novel. I have to kind of keep it under wraps. I can't give it away quite yet, but it should be coming out next year. And I'll say this, it's not an ongoing series like Brody's Ghost. It is, I guess, what we would call a done-in-one. You know, I'm going to begin and end the whole story in a single book. So, more on that in the months ahead. But for now, just rest assured, anytime I finish a book of any kind, I'm always going straight on to another book. I have no plans to just stop making new books. I should say, though, that a number of my upcoming books will be within the realm of art instruction, and very excited about some of the projects that I have in store. Again, more on that in the future. Let's go on to question number 3 here from Sheena Tron. What was your backup plan if your career in comics wasn't successful? Did you have a backup plan? That's a great question, and indeed, I don't know if I did have much of a backup plan. Some of you have sort of heard my story before, but for those of you who haven't, my first job when I came out of college was to teach English in Taiwan. I taught there for a year and a half. Then I went on to Japan. I taught there for 2 years, more than 2 years. And then after that, I went back to Taiwan to the exact same school where I had taught before and taught for 1 more year. So 2.5 years in Taiwan, more than 2 years in Japan. And that was really what I did, during those first 5 years or so out of college. Then I decided, look, it's time to pursue this dream of being a published illustrator. I don't know if I knew I wanted to be an author so much at that point, but I certainly wanted to be an illustrator of some kind. And that's when I started chasing after it. Now, I was around 28 when I really began pursuing full-time work as an illustrator, and it turned out author, comic book creator. And suffice to say, I eventually made it work. There were, it's a roller coaster ride. There were a lot of ups and downs. There were points where I wanted to give up. That could be a whole separate video, just taking you through all of that. But, I did. I didn't have a super strong backup plan. I suppose if I had to, I would have gone back to teaching English. But I think what happens as you get older is a job teaching English in Taiwan or Japan is maybe not enough if you want to, have a family, if you want to have a substantial income. I probably would have ended up having to go into the administration of some kind of English school, and oh boy, that's not for me. I enjoyed teaching. I don't think I would enjoy all the meetings and financial planning and stuff that would be part of it. So to answer the question, not really. I didn't have too much of a backup plan. I did, I had graduated from college, so I had my degree to fall back on. I didn't just risk everything without finishing college. So I guess that in itself is a bit of a backup plan. But let's move on then to the next question from Petrucci15. What is your least favorite thing to draw and why? I love that question. I don't know if I've been asked that. I don't think I have, so this will be my first time to answer it. And I think for me, the kind of thing that I really don't like to draw, and it's sort of ironic because the thing that I'm doing right now might sound like the very thing that I'm describing, but one thing that I really don't like to draw is like an office building with row after row of windows. So first of all, it's very geometric, but then it has a lot of repetition of the exact same thing with lots of nitpicky details. Like an old apartment building, and I'd have to draw all those bricks, and every single window needs its little support structure and so forth. Ooh, that is not a lot of fun. And like I said, it's sort of funny because this involves a certain amount of repetition. With these little, dewdrops that I'm illustrating, but I think there's just enough variety here that it remains interesting for me. And indeed, I have never actually tried. I don't think I've tried to draw dewdrops before. So there's a certain, as a novice attempting this, I'm kind of. There's the joy of discovery, even though it does sort of involve a lot of repetition. And I will talk a little bit more about this whole preparatory process, what I'm doing here, with another question. So I think least favorite thing, anything that's repetitious like that. Let's go on then to number 5, from Super the Power. Love that name. What series do you like better, Brody's Ghost or Miki Falls? So yeah, this is asking me to choose between my children, my two different graphic novel series. Which one do you like better? And I want to answer that question. I don't want to cop out by saying, well, I can't decide. I love them both in their own ways. I guess I'm going to have to say, between the two, I feel that Brody's Ghost, the more recent of the two, represents a little bit of a step up. I hope it does. I learned a lot of things while I was working on Miki Falls, and I feel that I was able to apply them to Brody's Ghost. I have some regrets about Miki Falls, particularly in terms of the way I drew the faces. I think I've mentioned that before. If I could go back, some people say, I have no regrets. I wouldn't change a thing. I'm not like that. If I were to go back and redo Miki Falls, I probably would change the way I drew the faces. But, it's as a story, I think Miki Falls is arguably a more interesting concept than Brody's Ghost. So I guess I am sort of hedging things here. And Miki Falls has the connection to Japan. It's named after my wife, Miki. I have a lot of personal connection to Miki Falls. So please don't think I'm saying that I don't like Miki Falls. I'm very proud of Miki Falls, and I do think it's quite a strong story. But yeah, I like to think I'm getting better, and maybe it's just because it's the one that I just completed, right? Some people, I don't know if you know this, Brody's Ghost Book 6, the final book in the series, is about to come out on April 21st, and I will certainly be hyping that a bit more as we get closer. I want to get my box of comp copies and open it up and do the big grand unveiling. So yes, that is still fresh in my mind, and I think artists are notorious for liking the thing that they just finished. That's my best work. So who knows? But thanks for that question, Super the Power. And the next question, number 6, comes from Manga Boss. Do you think an artist can always become better, or do you think there's a limit somewhere? So yeah, a little bit of a continuation from the last question. I think unquestionably an artist can always get better. I don't see how it's possible that you could reach some limit, because there's so many different things to get better at, right? You may become really good at drawing animals, but you haven't even started to practice drawing, cars or something like that. I mean, there's just so many different things. In my case, and people have noticed this, I'm always trying to pursue different types of styles. I certainly have a long way to go in almost any of the styles that I've pursued, such as, manga and hyperrealism, all these different things. But there's whole different styles that I've never really attempted, like abstract art, right? I haven't really tried, and maybe that'll be something I should do. The abstract challenge. See if I can do a piece of abstract art. That does not come naturally to me, but it could be an interesting thing. So yeah, without question, you can always get better, and if you feel that you're not getting any better, be patient and maybe try a different style that you've never tried before. Try drawing something. Don't get locked into one thing and say, well, this is what I want to be good at, and if I'm not good at this, then I'm terrible. No, maybe that style that you were pursuing is not the one for you. Maybe life is trying to tell you that you should be working in a different style from that. Who knows? But anyway, yes, if you feel that you can't get better, I'm here to tell you you can. Number 7, and boy, I don't know if I can pronounce that, Zansi Berezins. Sorry if I've butchered that name, but the question is, number 7, what is the most important part of making your characters feel alive? Love that question, and it's something that as a storyteller I'm a little bit obsessed with. I want these characters to seem real. I want them to seem alive, and I've come up with a 2-part answer to that question. If we're talking about comics, I would say 2 different things. Number 1, the dialogue. I think character is revealed mostly through dialogue, and to a certain degree through actions and what the person chooses to do and so forth. But I think dialogue is your prime opportunity to reveal character. So I would say focus on that. focus on the dialogue and making your character speak in a distinctive way. And then the other one is facial expressions. I think character is revealed through facial expressions, and people looking at Brody's Ghost and Mickey Falls and almost anything I've ever done will see that I do focus on facial expressions, on subtle changes in facial expressions. So yeah, dialogue, facial expressions. Those are the two, I would say, main things to focus on if you want to bring your characters alive. Don't worry too much about big plot twists and so forth. If you feel like your goal is to make your characters come alive, you really have to think more in terms of the speaking. And I said the facial expressions. Let's move on then now to number 8 from Barracuda-sama. Do you prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? So again, we sort of move right on from the last question to a somewhat related question. Do you prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? Now, it's sort of ironic right after I have said that, plot is not so much about character. I would say that if I had to choose between those two things, actually plot is a plot-driven story in which the characters are not memorable is, to me, preferable, my personal preference, preferable to a story that has really great characters but essentially no plot and nothing happens. And it's just slice of life. I'm not tearing down that kind of story. Far from it. Some of the best stories ever written have been that kind of slice of life story in which the casual observer might claim nothing happens. Well, yeah, earth-shattering things can happen on a daily basis, but not in a big flashy way. So, but just for me, I like a good plot. That's just my personal preference in terms of storytelling. And of course, the answer is you want both, right? But I feel it always feels a little boring if you just say, well, both. If someone asks you a question in which you are meant to choose between two things, which is more important to you? It's so much more interesting if you actually go for it and try to choose one of them. So I do think, if I were made to choose between plot and character in terms of a story, I would go for plot. Let's move on now to number 9. How often, if ever, do you just stop during the middle of recording a video because you've decided it's not working out and scrap it for a new one? You know what? That's it. I'm going to stop this video right now. It's just not working out. Sorry, I couldn't resist that really dumb joke. How often do you just stop during the middle of a recording? Trevor B., I got to tell you, that in the early days, there were 1 or 2 videos where the results were just so shabby that I had to stop and start over again. Actually, more recently, the one about wings, I was showing feathered wings on a female character, and I realized after I posted the time-lapse that I had the wings overlapping in the wrong direction. So I did actually have to stop and refilm the second half of that video and own up to it, I think. I explained what I was doing. So it does happen. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. But I was going to use this as an opportunity to talk about, like what I'm doing right now is I'm sort of practicing my technique if I ever decide to do a video about, dewdrops on a leaf. I'm sort of testing out these techniques and seeing if my idea will work, putting down a base layer of watercolor, then going in with colored pencil. Of course, no surprise, my final touch will be the white gouache, as it always is. I'm testing out a technique here, and in that sense, I sort of allow myself to make mistakes, and maybe the final result of this video won't be that great, but I will have learned something by the end of it, and then when I decide later on to do a video that is really teaching techniques for dewdrops or whatever, then I won't fall flat on my face. I think sometimes people have the idea that I just sit down with a blank sheet of paper and start drawing without having prepared, and that is definitely not the case. If I want to teach people how to draw a wolf, then I study I study what wolves look like and make sure that what I'm teaching is going to be valid. I don't just sit down there and say, well, I'll wing it and hope that what I'm teaching actually ends up looking like a wolf. No, there's always preparatory work before pretty much any one of these videos. So if you are like, boy, how does he do it? How does he just sit down with a blank sheet of paper and without ever having practiced get a good result like that? Well, I have practiced, people. Sorry to eliminate the mystery or bring it all crashing down to the ground. Drawing well requires preparation unless you're some kind of genius. I certainly am not that. So, anyway, there we go. Because I practice, to sort of bring it back to the question, because I do prepare, these days I don't have to, stop a video halfway through and just give up and start all over again. I've sort of worked out some of the bugs by practicing the techniques in advance. And here we come to number 10 from Google Chrome. How were your high school years like? Were you bullied or just another person in the crowd? Now I know I think I responded to a somewhat similar question to this, but it has been quite a while, and I don't know if I touched on all the different aspects of my high school. Actually, there's two main things that characterized my high school years in terms of what kind of person I was. Number one was I became really interested in British pop music, especially electronic pop music. This was during the age when Depeche Mode and Human League, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, this is the early 80s, all this stuff was coming out. It was a very exciting time, I thought, musically. It's like a new style was being born at that time, and I got into it. I got into the sort of fashions, and kind of embarrassing to say, but I was sort of like a new waver, I suppose you'd say, at school. And that was my sophomore year. I think maybe in my sophomore year, I would really wear some pretty weird stuff to school. Hopefully there are no photos of that. No photographic evidence of my strange fashion sense at that time. But I was sort of experimenting with my look and so forth. Because you'd look at these bands, right? Like Flock of Seagulls and all these people. They all had outlandish clothing, and I guess I sort of wanted to be a part of that somehow. So that was part of who I was at that time. These days, couldn't be more boring. Just t-shirts, jeans. Just, I don't know what happened, but I left that part of my life behind by the time I was done with high school. But the other thing is I was in the plays. I was in this theater group, and there were 4 different plays throughout my high school years, and I was in... Or did I say 4? 8, I'm sorry. There were 8 different plays during those 4 years, and I was in all 8 of them. And I never had the big lead role, but I had a lot of roles that allowed me to do funny voices, as you know. Always liked doing the funny voices. I don't think I did any Brooklyn voice back then. But maybe I did try to do British accents because I was such a Monty Python fan. I don't dare do them these days because all my English YouTube viewers will say, "Mark, stop it! Your accent is terrible. That sounds nothing like what British people sound like." So I steer myself away from British accents these days. But back then I was crazy about them and used them in many of the roles that I was cast in for these plays, often whether they deserved them or not, whether it fit. I was supposed to be an American character, but I gave it a British accent anyway. I don't know. Well, and to sort of wrap that up, I had dreams of maybe going into acting. I enjoyed that sort of goofy high school acting so much that I thought maybe I'll, be a double major. And I went off to college, and I was considering being a double major acting art major. I took 1 acting class, and boom, they understood that I wasn't taking it seriously enough. I didn't have it in my DNA to pursue acting for real. And that was the end of my acting career until YouTube came along. And I started doing old man time lapse. That's the only acting I do these days. And thank goodness that the world is very glad that I don't torture anyone with failed attempts at acting. Well, that's the end of my first 10 questions, and I am going to do a lightning round. But what I'm going to do right now is, with a little time lapse, I'm going to keep working on this dewdrop thing, take it a little further along, and then maybe just add some gouache as I do the lightning round questions. All right, well, I think I'm almost ready to move on to the gouache part, but a couple of things first I wanted to say before we go into the final questions here. If you're sitting there hoping, man, I hope he chooses me, chooses my question, please keep in mind that there were more than 3,000 questions to choose from. Basically, only 20 could make it into the video, so please try to be understanding if I wasn't able to select yours. And I do appreciate you asking. I did read every one of those questions and greatly enjoyed them. So let me begin with this first question in the lightning round. Question number 1, who was your first original character? This question from Jessica Z. Well, hang on a second. I'm going to show you one of my very first characters. When I was in college, I created a character named Kalamazoo. I went to Kalamazoo College, so I invented this guy, Calvin Mizzou. And basically, I did a comic strip that was in the college newspaper. One of my first characters, although really the first character was Metal 8, Metal Ring. Some of you may remember the superhero that I created. I'll put a link to my elementary school drawings video that shows you Metal Ring. I guess was the version that I showed you. That would be the very first character. This is probably the second character, Cal Mizzou. Okay, next question, number 2 from Isaac Verk. If you were to make a font, what would the letters look like? Well, actually, I made a font back when I had the Akiko comic book series in the late 90s. And I'm going to try to zoom in just a little. Unfortunately, I can't. I can only zoom in so far with this camera, but we'll give it a little bit of a zoom. And this here is a font that I created based on my handwriting, so as to save myself a lot of labor in hand lettering the word balloons for this entire series. All right, well, I'm going to interrupt the lightning round a little bit to pull out the white gouache, and get a little bit of these final highlights done that I think are going to make a big difference in terms of making these dewdrops look more dewy. And it's going to be a challenge, I must say, with this not yet dry paint to continue doing the lightning round, but that just goes to show you how well organized I am in planning this thing. Here's question number 3 from Petrucci15. Who would win in a fight, Brody or Talia? Well, I think clearly Talia. First of all, she's dead already. So you can't kill her. How could you defeat someone? He can't touch her. His hands just go straight through her. She, meanwhile, has the ability to shatter glass. So, she just waits until he's under an atrium, maybe, and causes the entire glass ceiling to shatter down on top of him. I'm thinking definitely it's Talia for that one. Question number 4 from Kirsten Huang, I think maybe. What does your handwriting look like? Hang on a second, I'm going to have to do a demonstration. All right, so I thought I would just grab a piece of scrap paper and a Sharpie and let you know that this is what my hand writing looks like. Kind of messy, huh? But there you go, I can read it. Okay, moving right along. Number 5 from George Bennett. Would you rather go a year without music or a year without meat for 500,000 pounds, or neither? Interesting question. For 500,000 pounds, I can do either of those things for sure. That's a lot of money. And I think actually I would choose going without meat for a year. I am not a vegetarian, but I think would be an interesting thing to try. And living without music for a year, just, boy, that's hard to imagine. I just love music so much. It just seems, and who knows, maybe after a year without meat I would find that it's not as hard as I imagine it to be. Maybe I would actually become vegetarian. Who knows? Let's see on the next question. Is kind of related, has to do with me getting lots of imaginary money. Number 6, if you were paid $1 million to cosplay or cosplay an anime character, who would you be? This from Kamala Vargas. I love that question, and I think for sure I would go for Alphonse Elric from Full Metal Alchemist, and with, what was it, $1 million? I could have the most awesome Alphonse suit of armor cosplay ever in the history of all anime conventions. It might be a little hard to walk around in, but then who knows? Maybe I can, with all that money, I can have it air conditioned, and who knows? Let's move on to question number 7 here from Storm Nation. Do you believe in real ghosts, spirits, and have you ever had a paranormal experience? Well, no, I have never really had a paranormal experience, and for a guy who just completed a series that is about ghosts, I actually have not really thought too deeply about the subject. I guess I would say I believe it's possible that there are ghosts. I have never actually seen them. But just by way of coincidence, I feel like the most paranormal experience that we all have on a regular basis, or most of us anyway, is that feeling of deja vu. You know, when you really have a feeling of deja vu, I find that very hard to explain. And it seems almost like a paranormal experience to me, except it's one that we sort of get used to and try to pretend didn't happen. Number 8 here from That Canadian 17. Have you ever cried while watching an anime? Definitely I have, and the one that comes first to mind is Grave of the Fireflies, or Hotaru no Haka. An incredibly sad film, not just as an anime, but as a film in general. I think one of the saddest films ever made, maybe. Grave of the Fireflies. I won't get into what it's about, but it's just, it is some of the saddest stuff you'll ever see in any film of any kind. Animated, live action, or otherwise. Let's go now to number 9. We're almost at the end of this. To slurp or not to slurp noodles? That is my question. Well, it depends. If you're in Japan, obviously you have to slurp as loudly as possible to show how delicious they are. In America, I guess you can slurp, but you will get some stares, I think, in the restaurant. Maybe not in a Japanese restaurant, though. Who knows? In any case, we are down to the final question, number 10. How pink should the blushies be, magenta or rose? This question from Fiza Firoz, and I didn't say out loud, Allegra Wolson, who gave us that last question. I feel like I should say all the names out loud. Final question there. How pink should the blushies be, magenta or rose? Definitely rose. Magenta? Magenta's very harsh. Come on, guys. I mean, we all love blushies, but let's not go overboard. I'm going to have to say rose. You know, I don't feel like I'm quite done with this, and I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to call in Old Man Time-Lapse. Hey, Old Man Time-Lapse. Yeah, you need me? Of course you need me. I need him to help me finish off this video because I haven't quite completed it. Let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to finish this off in time-lapse, and then we'll be back with a few final words. All right, well, there's my question and answer video number 24. Thank you so much for posting questions, and I really enjoyed answering them. But for now, I suppose it's time for me to lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.